I have a love-hate relationship with fish. As an adult, I've learned to actually like fish. When I was a child, I thought that fish was the worst thing on earth. When the school would have fish sticks, it'd be like, ugh. And since tuna was so cheap, my mother would use tuna a lot in some recipes, and I, of course, wouldn't want to eat it. So she had to trick me. And one day, I asked what was, oh, that was really good. And she said, oh, that's great. And I said, well, what was in it? She said, chicken. And she brought out the can and showed me it was chicken of the sea, which was obviously tuna, So when I was about 8 or 9, my father's from Chicago. We would always go and see Grandma. There's a great aquarium right on the lake, and we went there, and about halfway through, walking through, I tugged my mom, and I looked at her, and I simply said, this is boring. All there are fish. And my poor father, who loved to fish, tried so hard to get my brother and me to like to fish. My brother loved it, and I'm sure he still fishes to this day. For me, first off, there was no way on God's earth I was going to be taking a worm and putting it on a hook. It was not going to happen. And then secondly, if I caught a fish, there was no way I was going to take that out of the fish and then let alone gut it. It was the most disgusting and also the most boring thing that I have ever done. Now, maybe today if I would go out on a fishing trip and I let, the crew deal with everything, and I could just, sit there, toss the line, enjoy the ocean. Maybe that would be okay, but it's not going to happen. And so, whenever we get to the stories of Jesus calling of his disciples in the Gospels, when he says, come and follow me and I will make you fishers of men, I'm like, well, but I don't like fishing, God. I mean, this is obviously for somebody else to do. Let's leave the fishing for the fisherfolk, and for those who don't fish, we could just go along our merry little way. Well, we always know that Jesus pushes us a little further, always gives us that fist pump that we can do it. And I have a story that I would like to read to you today. Now, I'm sorry, it does not have pictures, so you're going to have to just use your imagination. Okay? Nancy, I know that's hard for you. It's been a while, my friend.
I know.
And it is called A Plea to Actually Fish. Now it came to pass that a group existed who called themselves fishermen. And lo, there were many fish in the waters all around. In fact, the whole area was surrounded by streams and lakes filled with fish. And the fish were hungry. Week after week, month after month, and year after year, These who called themselves fishermen met in meetings and talked about their call to fish, the abundance of fish, and how they might go about fishing. Year after year, they carefully defined what fishing means, defended fishing as an occupation, and declared that fishing is always to be a primary task of a fisherman. Continually, they searched for new and better models and methods of fishing, and new and better definitions of fishing. Further, they said, the fishing industry exists by fishing as a fire exists by burning. They loved slogans such as, "Fishing is the task of every fisherman." They sponsored special meetings called Fishermen's Campaigns and the Month for Fishermen to Fish. They sponsored costly nationwide and worldwide congresses to discuss fishing and to promote fishing and hear about the new ways of fishing, such as new fishing equipment, fish calls, and whatever any new bait had been discovered. These fishermen built large, beautiful buildings called fishing headquarters. The plea was that everyone should be a fisherman and every fisherman should fish. One thing they didn't do, however, none of them fished. In addition to meeting regularly, they organized a board to send out fishermen to other places where there were many fish. The board hired staffs and appointed committees and held many meetings to define fishing, to defend fishing, and to decide what new streams should be thought about. But the staff and the committee members, of course, did not fish. Large, elaborate, and expensive training centers were built whose original and primary purpose was to teach fishermen how to fish. Over the years, courses were offered on the needs of fish, the nature of fish, where to find fish, the psychological reactions of fish, and how to approach and feed fish. Those who taught had doctorates in fishology, but the teachers did not fish. They only taught fishing. Year after year, after tedious training, many were graduated and were given fishing licenses. They were sent to full-time fishing, some to distant waters which were filled with fish. Many who felt the call to be fishermen responded. They were commissioned and sent to fish. But like the fishermen back home, they never ever fished. Like the fishermen back home, they engaged in all kinds of other occupations. They built power plants to pump water for fish, and tractors to plow new waterways. They made all kinds of equipment to travel here and there to look at fish hatcheries. Some also said that they wanted to be part of the fishing party, but they felt called to furnish fishing equipment. Others felt their job was to relate to the fish in a good way, so the fish would know the difference between a good and a bad fisherman. Others felt that simply letting the fish know they were nice, land-loving neighbors, and how loving and kind they were was simply enough. After one stirring meeting, the necessity for fishing, one young fellow left the meeting and he went out and fished. The next day he reported that he caught 2 outstanding fish. He was honored with his excellent catch and scheduled to visit all the big meetings possible to tell how he did it. So he quit his fishing in order to have time to tell about the experience to the other fishermen. He was also placed on the Fishermen's General Board as a person having considerable experience. Now, it is true that many of the fishermen sacrificed, and they put up with all kinds of difficulties. Some lived near the water and bore the smell of the dead fish every day. They received ridicule of some who made fun of their fishermen's club and the fact that they claimed to be fishermen but never fished. They wondered about those who felt it was of a little use to attend the weekly meetings to talk about fishing. After all, were they not following the master who said, "Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men"? Imagine how hurt some were when one day a person suggested that those who don't catch fish were really not fishermen, no matter how much they claimed to be. Yet it did sound correct. Is a person a fisherman if year after year he never catches a fish? Is one following if he isn't fishing? It's a pretty strong statement against all of us. Jesus called us and calls us to be fishers of men. No, I don't expect it to be taken literally that you go out into a boat and cast a net and you have all these human beings come on up. But the water is just outside these doors. They're in your school. They're in your workplace. They're in your volunteering. They're in your family. They're in your neighbors. They're everywhere. Billions of fish in the sea that are waiting, little do they know, waiting for us to cast our nets and to share with them the good news that God truly loves them just for who they are. Full stop. And since God loves them, we love them. And if God can love them and we can love them, we can offer one of the greatest gifts of all. And that is to say to one of those who we've caught, "Come, join me. Join me next Sunday. I'd love for you to come and experience the joy, the diversity, the love that we have at St. Jude. I promise I'll sit by you. I promise I'll help you with the many books and bulletins. I promise I'll introduce you to others who will love you just as much as God and I do." Can we call ourselves Christians if we don't fish? Can we call ourselves Christians if we spend all our time studying about fishing for people? Or can we really call ourselves Christians when we follow the Master's words to go forth and be fishers of men? Amen.
Amen.